Hi, Russ of Aquariumax here. In today's video, we're going to take an up-close look at 9 different types of Armadillidium isopods with a macro lens. Zebra pillbugs were the first Armadillidium species that I ever purchased. They are, of course, a mainstay in the hobby now. They're quite prolific. They're pretty easy to keep, and their patterns are just amazing. There is a lot of variation in the pattern of the zebra isopods. This one is a classic zebra with really clean lines. This one is a high white individual where the lines are probably twice as thick as most individuals. I have just a couple of these and should probably start isolating them out. Then we have some which have more broken lines, although I have been selecting for those with more solid lines. Some are even spotted. I don't have a whole lot of those, but definitely a stunning isopod and definitely among my favorites. This high white one's pretty fantastic, gotta say. A really easy to keep and fairly prolific Armadillidium species is Armadillidium nasatum. The only strain I have of this species is the peach strain. You can see there's some color variations in the peach, from a darker color with darker markings to some fairly pale individuals, but I think they're pretty attractive. I occasionally do get a wild type in here too. We might see one if I look long enough. This is a fairly undemanding species, but really pretty attractive, probably underrated in the hobby. These are pretty active species. They seem to average out a little smaller than Armadillidium vulgare, although some individuals get fairly large. And you can see they're pretty active and a little bit difficult to focus on. They get their name, Armadillidium nasatum, from the little structure on their face, their little nose. They're running so fast it's kind of hard to show you. Here are a few specimens of Armadillidium vulgare Orange Vigor, and it is really pretty attractive, I think. Very easy to breed, very prolific for an Armadillidium species. The variation in this morph is considerable. Some of them are basically a neon orange, and others are kind of a more washed out orange, and there are some that are basically yellow. And I've heard some people get some that are quite red too. The strain I have doesn't seem to produce the reds, but the oranges are pretty vivid. This is an underrated variation on Armadillidium vulgare, in my opinion. Here are some of my Armadillidium high yellow project. And my son, who discovered the founding individual, wanted to call them Nightgolds, so that's what we're going to do. And I have selected some out that seem to be showing the trait. Most of these are immature individuals, so we'll see whether they keep it, but if they do, we're going to have some interesting things going on. I think it is a really unique look, and it looks like there are several different things going on here. Some of them have a lot of dark, some of them are almost completely covered by some degree of the pattern. As I mentioned, there's still lots of normal individuals showing up in this enclosure, so I haven't quite gotten this to breed true the way I want to yet. It's been a few years that I've been working on it, and I may have mentioned this if you've seen some of my other videos, but it does appear to be sex-linked, where the females carry the color, at least in most cases. But I've had some encouraging results in the last couple of generations, and I really hope to be able to get this particular strain out into the hobby soon. This is a species I haven't had for long, but I'm really excited about it. This is Armadillidium gestroi or gestroi. I think these are extremely attractive. I've always liked high yellow isopods, and these are pretty fantastic as far as coloration goes. I started out with some very tiny monkey, and so they're just about to the size and age where they should start reproducing for me anytime now. This individual is particularly heavily marked. Just fabulous. That white skirting and then the those yellow wedge-shaped markings on the dark background. As far as color and pattern goes, I would say this is one of my favorite isopods. Before we look at some more isopods, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon backers. Without your help, in a very real sense, we couldn't have made this video because you, our Patreon backers, funded the purchase of this macro lens. So, thank you very, very much. And now, let's look at some more isopods. And here is an Armadillidium species magic potion. I started out with a group of half a dozen of these, and they were pretty small, just out of the monkey stage, very small juveniles, and was hopeful that I could get a breeding colony going, but I may have just been unlucky and gotten all males or something like that, because they all grew up, all reached a nice mature size, survived for quite a bit of time like that, but never actually produced any offspring at all, which is unusual. Most isopods seem to breed pretty well for me, so I was puzzled by that, kind of saddened, because this is a pretty beautiful species, don't you think? And now let's take a look at Armadillidium klugi Montenegro, or the clown isopod. This species is actually kind of difficult to get good video of because they're very shy, and so upon adding them to the plastic container, I noticed that they were immediately trying to hide under the paper that I had put at the bottom of the plastic container to help offset the colors of the isopods. So I taped the paper to the outside bottom of the container, and now it's working all right. Now you can see that not only are the red skirts of these isopods showing up here, but they're polka dots. They have both white and yellow polka dots in some individuals, and in other individuals just white. Since these are all young individuals, some people have said that the yellow coloration shows up on older individuals, but none of these are actually of mature size. So I'm not entirely sure what governs the differences in the colors, but they're gorgeous isopods either way. And the current thought is that these are mimics of a relative of the black widow spider that lives in their native Europe, and that this coloration is supposed to ward off predators. Now these were sold as a mixture of Armadillidium klugi pudding and the normal wild type Armadillidium klugi Montenegro, and that seems to be exactly what it is. I can see some in here with the characteristic red skirts, and there are some with white skirts. That seems to be the only difference. The red color has been removed in the puddings. Finally, I got one to stay still long enough. You can see that the red coloration in the wild type Armadillidium klugi Montenegro is absent in this pudding specimen. And these striking specimens are representatives of Armadillidium vulgare Punta Cana. This was once thought to be Armadillidium sordidum, but according to the smug bug, hybridization between this morph and other morphs of Armadillidium vulgare demonstrate that this is in fact that species rather than Armadillidium sordidum. I haven't had this morph for very long, but I'm interested to watch the colony mature. I really find the contrast between the dark and the light markings on most specimens really pretty striking, and the coloration is also variable from individual to individual. So I'm glad I picked some of these up. I hope you've been enjoying the macro tour of the Armadillidium isopods so far. In the next installment in this series, we'll be looking at my Porcellio isopods. Thanks for watching today. I post videos every Wednesday and Friday, all on aquarium and vivarium pets. Please feel free to share, rate, comment, and if you haven't already,
subscribe.
And then click the bell icon so you don't miss my next video.